Nozibusiso Sibiya, TV, radio, and multimedia journalist with South Africa's SABC Sport, currently at the World Football Summit in Madrid. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much for that welcome. And yes, I am enjoying Madrid, even though the weather is a bit weird now compared to South Africa because we're currently in spring. But yeah, I am enjoying.
We're in Manchester. You're getting no sympathy from us whatsoever.
I can imagine.
Let's not. So, congratulations to you. South Africa are going to the World Cup, and we now know some of the teams who will be there with them. In terms of the United involvement, there's obviously Ivory Coast qualified last night with Ahmad. Morocco were already qualified for Mazraoui, and a bit of disappointment for Cameroon and Bryan and Mbeumo. Should we start with the happy news? Ahmad, it was
Yes.
amazing for Ivory Coast against Kenya, and he really stepped up, didn't he?
Yes, he really stepped up. And I think another thing that I really like as someone who's African based is sometimes people feel that when players play in the English Premier League, for example, and with United being a big club, sometimes they get a starting lineup even when they do not deserve it. So I really was happy to see Ahmad proving that he deserves to be in the starting lineup for Ivory Coast because I mean they are called the Elephants because they're one of the biggest teams in Africa. And I know growing up that we also used to support a lot of West African teams because they used to qualify for the World Cup. So seeing Ahmad, having an assist and also scoring a goal, it was just such an amazing thing. And an amazing thing. And I'm really, really happy for him as well because I feel like as a player, like I said, if you play internationally, you always have to prove to people in the country that you deserve to be in the lineup.
Is he seen as a big player in the Ivory Coast team?
Yes, obviously he is seen as a big player in the Ivory Coast team because, like I said, as soon as you leave the country, even before you get to the EPL, as soon as you leave the country, then there's already pressure on you
Mhm.
that since you are playing outside of the country, you should be able, because a lot of leagues in Africa as well are not professionalized as yet because of funding. So as soon as you play for a professional league, then we see you as a big player. So you need to prove that you know why you're playing at Manchester United.
And of course, as we said there, the big players step up in the big moments, and he did it perfectly, didn't he? He got the early assist for Kessie, and then he rounded off with it was a brilliant free kick, wasn't it? Quite late on.
Yes, a brilliant free kick, but also talking about the assist, I think it's very important as well because I know how we think as African football fans. We know that when someone is seen as a big player, then they tend to always want to score the goals because it's for their statistics, right? So having an assist in that game as well is just it just shows that he's a team player and he's actually doing it for the country. I mean, they haven't been to the World Cup in 12 years. So for them qualifying right now, especially with him at his age, I think he'd be very, very excited as well as him as a player that represents Ivory Coast.
Awesome. And he's used on the right side of attack, isn't he? Does he have a little sort of less defensive responsibility than he does at wing back for United, say?
So I've realized that with different coaches, right, they prefer to use players in different positions because I remember I had a conversation with a coach here in South Africa, and then they said sometimes you use someone as a defender in their team, and then when they come to the national team, you're like, but this person, they very, very fast. They can actually play as a winger. Then they tend to, it's just, I think this playing positions also have to do with the coaches and what they think of you. I mean, one of the best goalkeepers we've ever had in South Africa was actually a striker until he got to the national team rankings when he was under 17. They were like, actually, you actually do know how to be a goalkeeper. And then that's how it happened.
Who was that?
It was Itumile Nkune. I think he was a striker, but he used to play inside until they were like, you are actually a goalkeeper.
Bit of a pivot. Okay. Okay. In terms of the sort of versatility, that's a nice little segue into Nous Mazraoui. He didn't play for Morocco. They're already qualified. But would you still expect him, given his experience, given that he played at the Qatar World Cup in 2022, when Morocco got all the way, I think to the last four, didn't they? Would you expect him to be involved in the World Cup next summer?
I do expect him to be involved in the World Cup next summer because I remember Coach Walid was saying that with him not being available for the last few matches of the World Cup qualifiers, he is then able to give other players a chance. Because I think with coaches, sometimes they want an experienced player when you still haven't qualified because the goal is to qualify. And then afterwards, you can assess other players. Because when he was injured, then the coach said, I was able to actually look at other players. And then I decided that, I'm going to play this player and this player because we had to replace him. But when you go to a World Cup, I know that even though Africa now is moving to a stage where we're giving a lot of young players opportunities, but I know that experience really, really does count. And also, we can't look down at the experience of playing for a team like Manchester United because it is very big and you're actually under pressure every single day if you play for Manchester United. And the World Cup is pressure. So going from playing in the EPL to the World Cup, actually you have that experience. And also with having experience, it also helps even with backroom conversations with the other players who are not playing in such a big league to say, this is what you do, this is how you handle the nerves, because the nerves are going to be there. So I think he will definitely go to the World Cup.
Brilliant. Less certain is Cameroon, obviously. Bryan and Mbeumo, Andre Onana is out on loan. They didn't quite make it. They're going to the playoffs in March, didn't they? Don't they? Um, how important is Mbeumo? I mean, he's only a few games into his United career, but I think people generally are liking what they see. Obviously, everyone loved what they saw with him in Brentford. He got better and better and better. How much of a fixture is he for the Cameroon team?
I mean, he did score this month against Mauritius, and also he had last scored against Libya. I think he's a very important player for Cameroon as well. Like I had said, that with experience, like now, with Manchester United as well, then it is going to help them, especially when you get to a point where you desperately need a win. Because right now, at this point, Cameroon does desperately need a win. Because I remember, like I said, growing up, we always knew Ghana, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, and Nigeria will go to the World Cup. So I think also there's so much pressure now for Cameroon to qualify because they've always been that team that goes to the World Cup. So I think there's also just going to be a lot of pressure on him. I just hope the fans, besides the United fans, I just hope the Cameroonian fans don't put him under pressure on social media because we know how it goes. But I feel like he's going to be under so much pressure to prove himself and also just take the team to the World Cup.
Wonderful. And finally, then, Noddy, would you expect all the United contingent there to be involved in the Africa Cup of Nations in December?
And okay, the funny thing about the Africa Cup of Nations and it's the discussions we usually have as journalists in Africa is it all depends on whether the clubs let the players go because it also clashes with the season as well. But looking at how they are playing, unless they actually like looking at Ahmad and looking at Mazraoui as well, unless they've got injuries, I think they will definitely go to the AFCON. Because I mean, the AFCON right now, yes, it is a very, very big tournament, but it also will show us the preparation for the World Cup. We'll see where your team stands in terms of the World Cup if they are gonna go to the World Cup. So they will definitely have to go to the AFCON. I think they will go unless there's an injury.
Brilliant. Noddy, thank you so much for your time. Go and enjoy Madrid. Enjoy the World Football Summit.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.